It has been an incredible start to the class of 2025 for Coach Bill O'Brien in his first year with the Eagles, but there's still some needs. Today's show, we're going to look at some of those last spots that Bill O'Brien has to address.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day, and I am your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. On today's show, it's all about recruiting again because, man, the news is continuing to trickle in, and we have some big things that we need to talk about, including a need for a second tight end. We have a couple names we're going to look at, and we'll look at the current situation at the tight end position. There was a stud running back on campus. There's already 2 commitments. Will BC take 3? I'll explain what that looks like. And finally, it isn't all roses and flowers here for BC. There's still one position I am concerned about. I'll explain what position that is, and I will talk about what options are still there and maybe where BC goes with this. We'll get into all of that in segment 3. Now, let's kick this off. Tight end. Now, the tight end position already has one commitment for the class of 2025. That is Bryce Lewis out of Blessed Trinity Catholic in Georgia. Bryce Lewis is a 6'6" tight end. He had some great offers. He was a decommitment from Arizona, son of Tim Lewis, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. Obviously, he was a very sought-after commitment for them. They really, really wanted him. He is clearly the staff's tight end number 1. And they landed him early on in this cycle, along with his teammate Marcellus Townsend. So the Eagles, I would think, most classes, one tight end is usually what BC gets. Last year, they landed the kid from California, a JUCO, after losing a pair of decommitments. But this year, they're going for 2. And this last weekend of official visit season, Boston College had on a pair of tight ends that they both are very high on and would probably take commitments from either of them. And those 2 are Stevie Amar out of California and Derrick Johnson, or DJ Johnson, I think is what he prefers to be called, out of Holy Cross, Louisiana. I would think, looking at the 2 of them, they're a little bit smaller, both of them, than Bryce Lewis. Bryce Lewis is 6'6". They're both about 6'4". Both are very talented. Now, when you look at Amar, when you look at what he can do, he is clearly a very sought after tight end. He's rated an 86 on 247, and he had a monster month of June in terms of his on campus official visits. He checked out Baylor, Brigham Young, Arizona, and California, all within about a span of a month. So he's been very, very busy. He wrapped up his visits this weekend at Baylor after spending the week before at BC. I think it's down to Baylor and BC. Brigham Young has a pair of tight ends. Cal, I think, is all set there. And from what I've heard, I don't think Amar actually even made his Arizona State official visit. So to me, it's down to BC and Baylor. Both of them are a trek for him. He's from California, so distance. I mean, they're both long. I guess Texas is a little bit is closer than Massachusetts, but it's still a hike, right? So it's based on whether he likes it or not. Now, I believe he's the top choice. I think he's probably next to Lewis. Obviously, Lewis is their top one. They already got him, but I think for their tight end 2 spot in this class, I think that Amar is going to be that number 2 guy. But what happens if they miss out on him? What happens if he does end up at Baylor? He has not said anything about an official announcement date or when he's going to decide by. He hasn't really leaked anything. There's no crystal balls out yet. I have not placed one. I do not feel comfortable enough about this situation to do that yet. But what if he does choose Baylor? What then? The second name that you're going to want to watch for is DJ Johnson. DJ Johnson is another guy who was on campus 2 weeks ago that Boston College feels really strongly about. They love this kid too. He, is from Louisiana, which I had to double check. I can't remember the last commitment to from the state, but I'm sure there's been one. I just can't think of one off the top of my head. He's got the same rating as Amar. Now he took only 2 official visits. He visited Tulane and BC. He also had offers from Houston, Indiana. He had 18 offers, so he's another guy that they feel really strong about. Pitt also offered him. So you got to feel good that if BC can land either of these guys, they're going to have a nice, solid tight end class. And I think it is really important because after this year, you lose Kamari Morales, who's only here for 1 year. The year after that, you lose Jeremiah Franklin, he's out of eligibility. So you have a need. Now you got a couple young guys coming up, as I said, Ryan Boltwood, the JUCO out of California, but more currently, I think you're going to probably see also Matt Regan and Holden Simmons, those kinds of guys probably jumping up there too. But you got to build some depth there. The tight end depth in that room, I feel especially moving forward, needs a jolt. So 2 tight ends would be a big thing for BC. It would be a big shot in the arm. And to get 2 of your top guys, because as I said all along, if you look at the big board that I put together on the tight end position, these were I think 3 out of the 4 guys. Another guy ended up blowing up, and I think he's probably going to end up at Ohio State. But these guys were all on theirs. This isn't like they're going down their board and adding new people. These are people they identified at the beginning of their tenure at Boston College and made them a priority. I strongly feel one of the 2 of these guys is going to end up there. I would love to see Amar, but I don't think Johnson is a consolation prize at all. I think he's a good get too. So this is where the tight end position is. And I feel like this is a position that's also going to be super critical in Bill O'Brien's offense. Like, you've watched enough Patriots football to know that guys like Rob Gronkowski and Hunter Henry and Aaron Hernandez play a big role in these offenses. So you need tight ends to play and good, talented tight ends. Bryce Lewis is going to be that guy. Stevie Amar could be that guy, and DJ Johnson could be that guy. This is a position of as I just said, I don't have a crystal ball in either of these 2 guys. I think it'll be interesting to watch how it develops. Who will be the guy that they get, and who will end up committing? If you've been on Twitter, you've seen like guys like Savon Huggins and a few other guys retweeting the heck out of Stevie Amar. Anything he puts up, they're all retweeting it. So I get a sense that would be a real prize for them. But again, Johnson could be it too. Now, in our second segment, the last official visit week, there was one name, and it was actually a midweek visitor that came on campus that surprised even me. I'll explain who that is, why BC's looking at him, and how he fits into the whole puzzle of the class of 2025. We'll get into all that in just a moment. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices viewed from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Now, you want to go to the Red Sox. They are playing hot baseball right now. They're one of the biggest surprises in the major leagues. You want to get in there. You want to get good seats. You want to make sure you're not sitting behind a pole or staring out into the outfield. Their seat viewer is perfect because it'll tell you exactly where you're sitting, so you know what you're looking at and you know what you're buying. It's not a surprise. That's what Game Time makes them so special. So make sure you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create a code and redeem code. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute prices, last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. If you're not already, get over to Eagle Insider. It's where I do all my written work. Check it all out there. Make sure you bookmark that page. If you're listening to this, there's lots of free stuff on there. I hope you check that out and become a VIP member if you want to get all the insider info. As you've seen over the last 2 weeks, I've been giving you a lot of info, but I've got stuff for my insiders that I don't even put on here. So you might want to know that. Get a good deal right now. Get over there. Now, I know a lot of stuff about official visitors. Like usually I can talk to the staff. They'll give me the list of who's coming. But as I learned this year, there's certain names they like to keep out of the media. They like to, for their own reasons, whether it maybe is a commit that was already on another team, like Marcus Upton, or the Syracuse decommit that was on campus last week that I have crystal ball to BC. Or there's other situations that they just don't want to get out. And I get it. Like, you want to control the narrative and you want to make sure that the news goes the way that you want it to go if you're running a program. And that's good. That's good leadership, right? So at the end of last week, if you're on Twitter, you see all the recruits. They're putting up their, oh, we had a great time. That's usually just like the end of their visit, and if they haven't committed, there you get the same picture package basically for every recruit, almost the exact same message. We had a great time. Thank you for the hospitality. Blah blah blah. And you saw the names that I had put up on Eagle Insider being doing that same thing, right? But one name popped up, and I was like, had no clue he was on campus. And that was Cedric Wyche of St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida. Now, he played at Cardinal Gibbons before, and I believe that's in Pennsylvania. And he's a running back. Now, early on, I had him identified as a potential on my big board for the running back position. I knew he was someone that they were looking at. Now, BC had already committed 2 running backs that they like a lot up to this point. Nolan James out of DePaul Catholic and Mackay Dodd out of Catholic Memorial in Massachusetts. So when I made my big board, I was told they're looking at 2 running backs. But there was a key feature that they wanted to make sure that I understood, was that if there was a can't miss prospect, a guy that they really liked, they would still consider taking him. That was the case when John Denman was here last week. That's the running back from Palestine, Texas. We still don't know what the situation is with him. He's a quiet dude, so I don't know what's happening with him. But that's also the case with Cedric Wyche. Cedric Wyche is a running back, and he is obviously very high on their board. He's super talented, and when you're looking at what he could bring, it's a level of explosiveness that I think would be a great fit for this offense. Watch his film, and you see a guy that's physical, who's elusive, who's got good size. He is able to break off tackles. He does everything. Like I could see why the staff would really like him. He's 6 feet, 5'10", so he's a bit on the smaller side, but he's 200 pounds. So he's not like, he's a smaller in stature, but he's a muscular dude. And he's rated an 86 by 247. So it's down to basically BC and Illinois. These are the 2 schools that are looking at him. He was at Illinois. He took a midweek trip to BC, checked it out, loved it, whatever, and then went to Illinois. Now there's a crystal ball in already for Illinois. I believe this is a site on 247. Everyone has their different philosophy of doing crystal balls. I think they're the ones that whenever they just feel good about something, they throw them and then they change them. So I'm not sure, and I could be wrong. I apologize if the guy from Illinois is listening to me right now. But I think they might be the site that does that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't mean like Cedric Wyche texted them and told them, or the staff told them that he's committed. So there's still a chance here. I've talked to folks, they're kind of unsure where this is at. So it could be a situation where they do get him. It could be a situation where they go with John Denman. John Denman also visited Arizona, Michigan State. He had it in Houston. So there's a chance that BC could go for 3 running backs here. And honestly, you're going to run out of Kai Robichaux and Alex Broom soon. So you're going to have them move on. Trayshawn Ward's going to probably move on. He has to move on. He's done. So you're going to have a need for some more depth there. And I think Wyche would honestly be a really good get for them. Denman would too. I like both of these guys. I can see why the staff would want both of these players and want to get their commitments, because they're both dynamic running backs, guys that can change the way you run your offense. So it's interesting. Like, you get these surprise visitors every now and then. And this is one of the bigger ones. And that one they clearly wanted to kind of keep low key. Now, in our final segment, I want to get into a position. It's not all good news. One where I'm starting to worry a little bit about. I'll explain what that is and why I'm concerned about it and what they could do in just a moment. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black, and we're talking recruiting here. Now, I've told you I only wanted to do this. I was supposed to get a summer break here, and I can't stop talking about BC sports because there's so much going on that instead of doing 3 a week, I've been doing 5 a week. It may change in July, but right now I'm going every day with you guys because you've been listening to it, and I'm going to keep producing it. So hopefully you're enjoying these episodes. If you do, give us a 5-star review. It really does help us. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when Locked On BC is going live. And also, if you like this podcast, if you're a Celtics fan, I gotta recommend Locked On Celtics with John Corrales. While things are ending for their championship run, he's done an amazing job covering every angle of that championship run. He's the best at this, and if you're a Celtics fan, you gotta check him out. And also, Locked On Mavs is really good too. I'm not a Mavericks fan, but Nick, who runs that, is one of the best as well. So, if you're looking for your NBA podcast, check those out. Now, as I said, it's not all great news right now for recruiting because there's still a position I am very starting to get very concerned about, and that's the edge rusher. That's the defensive ends. BC has one commitment, Israel Oladipo, who I know the staff is very excited that they landed, and you should be because he had offers from Oklahoma State and Indiana. You know, he was he was sought after a lot by some bigger programs. So he's a good get. But I'm starting to look at the depth of this position and saying that this is a position of anything. Like you're bringing in 9, 10 defensive backs, 3 potentially running backs, 2 tight ends, a whole slew of wide receivers. You need some more edge because you're losing Donovan Azaraku after this season. I think they're losing Neto Ekpala too. And then after that, it's like, who's going to be playing? Who is going to be your edge rushers? Is it going to be Edwin Kalengi? Is it going to be, Clive Wilson or Josiah Griffin? You don't know what you have there. You need depth. And maybe they're going to address it in the transfer portal. Maybe that's what they're looking at. But I'm looking at the big board of the positional players that they've been looking at. And I'm starting to worry as many of them are coming off the board. Most recently, my favorite name in the world, Cole Cogshell out of California. He didn't even make his trip to BC. And he was a name I was really looking forward to, hopefully, that they would land because I could talk about Cole Cogshell a whole bunch. But he's good too. But he ended up committing to BYU. So he's gone. I'm hearing buzz that Nathan Nayandoro out of Canada. I had CA in front of me. He took an official visit to Oregon State, but I've talked to the Syracuse site and they're feeling really good about him. So he could be off the board. Then that leaves you with what? Who is available left that you could get at the edge position? You have Cameron Brown, which I based on what he's been recruited for, I wonder if he's more of a G5 type player because he seems like he's getting a ton of official visits there. And then there's Sydney Stewart, but Sydney Stewart already has a crystal ball in from Maryland. So you could either get a guy that could maybe, I don't know how they're evaluating Cameron Brown, could be more of a G5 player, or you could end up striking out on all of these guys. And that is worrisome. Now, I said on 247 yesterday on one of our VIP boards that I think the other potential is that there's names that haven't been floated out yet. And I said, and I don't want to give it out there because the staff, whenever there's a committed player elsewhere, they hate me bringing his name up. So I can tell you that there's at least one edge rusher that's committed at another school that I know the staff is looking at. And 247 and one of the other sites already talked about it, but I don't want to bring it up because I don't want to step on any toes. So maybe that's the case. Or maybe they're going to have to take some flyers. I don't know. But whatever the case is, the edge rusher position, you got one really good player. I'd feel much more comfortable if they had 2. If for some reason Sydney Stewart committed or Nathan Nayandoro. And believe me, it's not Nayandoro is not at the they're putting a crystal ball in for him yet. They just feel good about him. But so he could still be the case. Or maybe there's another name. The coaching staff had on their top list, but maybe there's other ones, or maybe they're going to watch senior film and try to get someone that way. It's just when you get into July, I was hoping to see 2. two recruits, but they don't have that. So it's an area that I still think they need to address, and we'll have to watch. I think it'll be very telling if you start seeing new offers going out for edge rushers in the class of 2025. Haven't seen that yet, but maybe that would be the case where you could see like, okay, they're starting to maybe move down their board a little bit more. Otherwise, I think everything is going great. Now, on tomorrow's show, I want to look at any news coming up from BC football. And if nothing breaks, I'm going to look at the commitment class so far. I'm going to address the biggest surprises, the biggest gets, the biggest disappointments, everything in between. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LockedOnBC. Hit me up on Twitter as well as AJ Black 247. You like me? You hate me? Just hit me up. I would love to hear your thoughts about that. And we'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.